They leave roles because they want something more, and they've started to ask themselves specific, very honest questions that they never ask themselves in the corporate world. Stuff that may trigger this may be a major life change, a death, a divorce, any sort of loss. And those major life events can get you to ask yourself super honest questions such as, am I happy? And by doing this role, am I fulfilled? And are the people around me, my loved ones, my friends, my family, are they getting the best version of me? I want to talk about building my own business and how I navigated along that journey. So, if you're someone who's felt that even once, you'll know exactly what I mean. It is super uncomfortable. And to be totally honest, when I started to ask myself those questions, when I started to be super honest with myself, the resistance and the pushback internally, where I actually wanted to go back and plug back into the corporate world, that was a super interesting time. But I think once you open your mind, once you ask yourself those questions around, am I happy and is this something that I could really do long term? And if things don't change, what type of person will I be? If you really are honest and you ask yourself those questions and you get the answers and you embrace them, you are going to go on an amazing journey. So if that sounds like you, if it's something that you've been thinking about, this one's for you. So in terms of my own story, I started off life on a council estate. With regards to school, it was something that you just did until you got a job at the end of it in my family. You know, I didn't particularly try hard in school. I didn't want to try hard. And for me, college and university were just something that was out of reach and we didn't really do in my family. The family business is plastering. So when I was 14, 15, I would be working with my granddad in the summers. And then when I finally was old enough to leave school, I got a plastering job. And I really remember in those moments where I'm making the walls flat, not feeling much pride and thinking, I cannot do this for the next 40, 50 years. So from quite an early age, I wasn't money obsessed. I was thinking about how can I really be fulfilled. And obviously your priorities change, your character changes, but from an early age, I was not obsessed with making money. I was obsessed with being fulfilled, which obviously made a few of my following choices more interesting, which we'll get to. But asking myself those questions was something that I've always done. So long story short, dropped out of my apprenticeship, went into college, then university, and finally ended up in technology recruitment. Now, when I got into technology recruitment, for the first time in my life, I felt super important. I was the person, the gatekeeper, that helped you to get a job. And that was a massive responsibility. You know, even going to work in a suit was amazing. Having the after work beers, I felt important. I felt like somebody. And being somebody in the eyes of other people is what I absolutely thrive for. So instead of thinking of myself during the, 7 to 8, because we'd work some stupid hours, I would think more and attach more of my happiness to what people felt about me and perceived of where I'm at in the pub, which looking back now is just mental. But all young people are keen to be somebody, and every promotion, every pay rise, it was closer to me becoming somebody. So I kept climbing the corporate ladder and I got to the point where the business that I had was one of the most successful business units in the United Kingdom in terms of net profit. So I decided that I wanted more. And when I got into recruitment, I always had this dream of moving to the United States. I loved the story of immigrant families that had gone there and then created these amazing lives from essentially nothing. It was the American dream. It's what we grew up watching on TV. I'm from England, so most of the TV's American, and I finally got a chance to live it. So I secured another job in New York. I was actually working in the Rockefeller Center. I handed in my notice at my current job, sold my house, got my entire family on a plane, moved us out to New York, and I thought I was living the absolute dream. Now, when I was there, something devastating happened, which I'll go into in further videos. I just don't want to dilute the message of this one, um, which resulted in me losing my family. So, very quickly, my priorities shifted from becoming a multimillionaire and providing this amazing life to everyone to shit, I'm not going to get to see my son for half his life. And when that happened, the priority shift that happened in me kind of went like that. And long story short, I packed up all my stuff. I got back to England and I actually secured a bigger role within the company that I'd just left. This time it was in London. I'd inherited a big team, massive opportunity. But because of what I'd gone through, I couldn't plug back in. And I remember moments of taking a look at the office floor and hundreds of people tippy tapping doing work that I'd done for the past 12 years and thinking, you guys are absolutely mental. And I remember thinking, am I having some sort of mental breakdown? Because I just can't understand, what you guys are doing. You are dedicating your lives to this job which doesn't have too much purpose, and you're wasting potentially the best years of your life and you're actually enjoying it. So I was quite honest with the person that I worked for. They knew that I was going through some stuff anyway. And being the leader, I felt pretty guilty because it's my job to push things on, it's my job to get things moving. And I'm kind of looking around thinking, what the hell are we doing here? So, anyway, long story short, I left that role and I got a role closer to home in Leeds. And again, I was good at the job, but I just wasn't dedicated because something in me had moved, something in me had changed, and my priorities were just all over the place. So I decided to come away, and the book that I actually read during that tough time was The Law of Attraction. And what that book does is it asks you a number of questions to figure out your life's purpose, because I knew that I couldn't be in the corporate world. I knew I wanted more, but I didn't know what that was. So after reading The Law of Attraction, I came up with what I believe is my life's purpose, which is to help others, inspire others through health, fitness, and mindset so that they can live, and not only live, flourish. And being a leader in the corporate world and understanding how many people are going through burnout, how many people are struggling with identity issues, with time issues, with confidence issues, I thought I'm going to start with leaders and entrepreneurs because I understand them and I can add the most value. And it's not easy. I think when you're building something which is super important to you, but you're leaving behind, 10, 20 years of something which you've built and put a lot of effort into and put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into, you are going to go through a little bit of an identity crisis. And the part that I found fascinating is when you step away from a big role, big salary, big responsibility, you realize how much of your identity was actually attached to that role. And I didn't often think about the fact that I wanted to be seen in a way by certain people. I wanted them to look at me and admire me. But when you step away from it, when you strip back the job title, when you strip back the salary, when you strip back the responsibility, and all that's left is you, you realize that a lot of you was actually attached to that person. And I know a lot of people will have gone through something similar and they don't have a word for it and their friends don't understand it. In fact, a lot of my friends and family thought I were crazy. You step away from a big role and a big salary to run into something which at the time pays nothing. People are going to think you're crazy. And what I want to tell you is that if you've got those feelings, those thoughts, run into it because you will make it work, particularly if you're quite a resourceful person. There's a lot of uncertainty which comes with stepping away from a career, particularly in today's day and age. It can feel quite safe. But what happens if you don't? So that's the first part of the story. I just wanted to create this video because I know there's going to be people out there that are currently feeling, this overwhelming discomfort. You're going to feel trapped in a position that you don't want to be in, but you're also going to realize that there's more to life. And Hopefully me talking about this lets you know that you're not alone. The advice that, again, I want to give you is to run into it, create a vision, and then create a step-by-step plan of how you're going to work towards it. And I think if you are feeling like that, don't look at it as a negative, look at it as a gift and do something about it and run into it. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe. I'm going to be talking about my own personal experience, my own story, and I'm going to be talking about Virssius, building it, how I'm helping other people, and maybe you can take some inspiration from this and build your own thing. Thank you very much.